You are an English learner, but there are 5 mistakes that you must avoid. And today I'm going to tell you what they are. Welcome to Speak English with Tiffani. I am teacher Tiffani. Let's jump right in. Mistake number 1. All right, the first mistake is cramming. This involves basically trying to do too much in a short period of time. When you do this, you eventually feel burned out, and I'll explain what that means. In other words, your desire to study English slowly goes away. Now, let's look at feel burned out in a little bit more detail. You see, this means to feel worn out or extremely exhausted, and you'll see some examples at the bottom of your screen. It's exhaustion of physical or emotional strength or motivation, usually as a result of prolonged or extended stress or frustration. So, for example, you can feel burned out because of a group project, or maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and you're very tired, or maybe overtime work at your office is making you very tired, or even high school teachers get tired, and maybe you are a speaker at a conference. You can feel burned out in these situations, okay? So let's see some examples. The man has been working long hours at the restaurant, so he is feeling burned out, again, tired. Now, what about this picture shows us this? Well, working long hours. Well, look at his eyes. His eyes look very tired. And what about the restaurant idea? Well, this is possibly kitchen equipment on the left side of your screen, or on the right side, it could be a large kitchen, okay? So again, the sentence is, the man has been working long hours at the restaurant, so he is feeling burned out. Or maybe this one, the fashion designer was on the phone with the client, but it was easy to tell by her body language that she was burned out. Okay, so looking at this picture, well, fashion designer. It looks like this woman likes fashion. Her jean jacket seems fashionable. And her body language, well, she looks stressed with her hands on her face. So again, the fashion designer was on the phone with the client, but it was easy to tell by her body language that she was burned out. Okay? And this one. The runner was totally burned out after completing her month-long training for the marathon. Again, burned out, being tired, okay? So, runner. Well, her pants, they look like running pants. And then training, it looks like she has on a training sweater. So, once again, the runner was totally burned out after completing her month-long training for the marathon. All right, so feel burned out. So mistake number 1 is cramming. This will cause you to feel burned out or tired and exhausted quickly when you study English. All right, so let's move on. You can avoid making this mistake by studying in chunks instead of trying to do everything at one time. And I'll explain to you what chunks are. Look at the amount of time you have and see how much information you can study and comprehend in that time period. All right, so chunks. A chunk is a large part or portion of something. So example number 1, she decided to read her books in chunks instead of all at one time. So example on the right side, she decided to read 5 chapters a day instead of the entire book in one day. So she did chunks of 5 chapters, all right? Number 2, 3 hours is quite a chunk out of my workday. So let's say you have an 8-hour workday. On the right of your screen, you'll see that this is divided into 8 sections. Well, 3 hours removes 3 of those sections, okay? That's a large chunk out of my workday. And number 3, I see a large chunk of cheese on the table in the kitchen. You'll see the picture of the cheese on the right side of your screen, the drawing. That's a chunk, a large part or portion of cheese, okay? All right, so let's think about your study habits. Now, this is representing your English study time. What happens is, for this mistake, sometimes as a student, you try to cram or put everything in at one time. But instead of doing that, you should break out your English study into chunks. So we have vocabulary, grammar, listening, writing, and speaking. So there are different types of chunks. You'll notice on your screen that I'm showing you visually how to break it down based on time or based on days. Now, you can choose the specific chunk for each day, all right? So let's say we're looking at Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You can choose vocabulary for Sunday, grammar for Monday, listening for Tuesday, and then a review day on Wednesday. And Thursday and Friday have different chunks as well. And then you can rest on one day out of the week, okay? Now at the top where I have it broken down in minutes, if you decide to have 15-minute chunks, that means you will do 15 minutes for vocabulary, 15 minutes for grammar, 15 minutes for listening, 15 minutes for writing, and 15 minutes for speaking. And the same across the board for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 60-minute chunks. Remember, the length of time for each chunk is up to you, okay? This is a way you can study to balance your learning, okay? All right, so again, you can avoid making the mistake of cramming by studying English in chunks. All right, very good. So now let's move on to mistake number 2. All right, this involves basically trying to look up every single vocabulary word you see and hear. A lot of my students did this in the past, and I had to give them this advice so that they could avoid this mistake. You see, when you do this, you eventually stop using the vocabulary words you already know and become discouraged. In addition, you hinder, and I'll explain this word, your ability to learn English through context. All right, so let's look at this word hinder. Hinder means to hold back or to make difficult to accomplish. Now we have 3 examples underneath, okay? Number 1, the power outage hindered his ability to get his research done. So look at the sketch on the right side. You'll see that he's trying to do some research or study, but because there's no power, that means the lights aren't working. So he can't study, he can't do research. So it hindered his ability to do the research, all right? Number 2, if you do not rest enough, you will actually hinder your workout progress. So again, looking at the sketch on the right side, the man looks very, very tired. So because he didn't get enough rest, he can't do his workout because he's so tired, all right? All right, number 3. An ankle injury will greatly hinder your ability to exercise. Again, remember, hinder means to hold back or make difficult to accomplish. Well, on the right side with the sketch, if you've hurt your ankle, then you can't move easily to exercise. All right, so again, hinder. All right, so let's look at some visual examples. Her injury is hindering her from playing to the best of her ability. Now, looking at this picture, injury, well, we see her knee and we see that someone is spraying her knee. So something happened, some injury happened. And then playing, well, she has her cleats on, okay? Cleats are the shoes you wear when you play soccer or for some countries football and also other sports on turf or on actual grass, okay? All right, so let's move to the next one. His fear of heights is hindering him from even attempting to climb the big mountain, okay? So we see this man standing right here. So fear of heights. Well, this mountain looks very big and very high, okay? He's staring at the big mountain, but he's not moving. And then climb the big mountain. Well, if we look at his backpack, we see he has gear on his backpack, okay? Again, so his fear of heights is hindering him from even attempting to climb the big mountain, all right? And next, his addictions are hindering him from getting a job. So looking at this picture, addictions, well, this man is holding some alcohol and a cigarette. He is drinking and smoking at the same time. So he has an addiction. And getting a job. Well, we see he is looking out for help. So we made the sentence, his addictions are hindering him from getting a job, okay? So mistake number 2 is looking up every word. This will actually hinder or make difficult to achieve your ability to understand English based on situations, okay? All right, so again, vocabulary words are important, but not looking up every word is also important, okay? All right, mistake number 2, how you can avoid it. You can avoid making this mistake by using the focus method. Using this method, your first goal is to listen for or read to find the main focus topic and then the supporting information or details about the topic. Let's see what this looks like. So, the focus method. First, you're going to find the main idea. In other words, the focus or subject. Then you're going to look for supporting points. You can listen for the 5 W's, the who, what, when, where, why, or you can listen for other details. All right. So let's look at this in an actual example. All right. So on the left side of your screen, you'll see an actual article. Now, this article comes from the Speak English with Tiffani Academy. They're updated every month. So if you're not a part of it yet, you want to join right now. There's so many students there, and don't wait. Okay. So this article on the left is called Talking Through Teens' Growing Pains. Now, there are going to be many words you don't know in this article. But again, the focus method says find the main idea. So the title is about teens and their difficulties. The word teen or teenager is all throughout the article. And the overall feel of the article is their difficulties and how to relate to them. So without even looking up the difficult words, you were able to find the main idea. Then look for supporting points. Parents have a hard time communicating with them. This point is seen in the article. Then difficulty with their peers or friends, and also spending time with parents. These are the points that are mentioned in the article. Now, even without knowing, for example, at the bottom, I highlighted some words that may be difficult or expressions like putter about, wince, or manipulate. Now, you can look those up after the video. But these are words that when you first read the article, you may not know, but you can still find the main idea and look for supporting points, okay? And next, this one is a conversation. This is for listening. So the main idea as you're listening to this conversation, Sarah's biology class and her difficult professor. That's the main idea. Those are the 2 points, right? And what are the supporting points? Michael took his class before, the professor's class, so he can help, and Sarah is happy. Now, you may not know what the word lifesaver means, but you have the general idea of the conversation. That is why the focus method is so important, okay? So you can avoid making the mistake of looking up every single word by using the focus method. Understand the most important parts first. Now, again, remember, I'm not saying never to look up vocabulary words, but I'm saying first find the important information, all right? Okay, so let's move on to mistake number 3. Mistake number 3, this involves basically trying to see how good or bad you are in English based on another English learner's capability or ability. That's why the mistake is called comparing yourself. When you do this, you actually can discourage yourself from trying harder to learn English, okay? So you can avoid making this mistake by placing more focus on your own English learning journey. On a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, you can write down where you improved and where you need to improve, okay? So let me explain a little bit more what on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis actually means. This refers to how often something happens or is done. In other words, it refers to the frequency of an action. So, for example, in the pictures, you'll see how often you hang out with your friends, how often you eat out, or how often you go to work. These are actions that happen on a regular basis, okay? So, let's go to the first example. I work with a great team of coders on a daily basis. So, again, in this picture, what do we see? Well, work. Well, we see this man sitting at his computer and he is very focused on his task. And then coders. Well, we see code on her screen. So coders refers to computer programmers who actually work with code. Okay. So again, I work with a great team of coders on a daily basis. Usually we work every day of the week, okay? All right, next, I eat out with my family on a weekly basis, okay? So eat out. Well, we're looking at this picture and he has a suit on and is eating a big juicy burger. So he's probably eating out, all right? Okay, and this one. My friends and I try to hang out with each other on a monthly basis. Well, hang out with each other. In this picture, it looks like they are all sitting together and enjoying each other's company. So they are together, but maybe this doesn't happen every day. So we say, my friends and I try to hang out with each other on a monthly basis. All right, let's move forward now. So again, you can avoid making the mistake of comparing yourself by writing down and checking your personal progress on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, regularly, basically. So don't compare yourself, just check your own progress, okay? All right, mistake number 4. Now, this mistake is not making a schedule. This involves basically studying English with no plans or goals. Plans and goals are so important. When you do this, it actually becomes harder for you to stay motivated to continue studying English, all right? So you can avoid making this mistake by creating a simple study schedule. Your schedule can be based on a daily, weekly, or monthly plan. But my advice is to focus on making a weekly schedule first so that you can get in the habit of studying. Now, let me explain get in the habit of, okay? This just means to begin doing something regularly or often, okay? So for example, reading a good book or having a cup of coffee. Sometimes people do that every day on a regular basis. Or going for a jog. These are habits that people have, all right? So for example, she got in the habit of going to Starbucks every morning when she was in university, okay? So Starbucks, well, we can tell by the cup, the Starbucks logo on the cup, and she was in university. Well, she has on a backpack, okay? All right, so again, she got in the habit of going to Starbucks every morning when she was in university. All right, next one. The man and the woman got in the habit of jogging together after they learned the health benefits of exercising. Well, okay, we see the man and the woman, they're jogging together. They look like they are talking to each other, all right? So they have a habit of jogging, okay? All right, and Barbara got in the habit of reading one book a week after she read the biography of Martin Luther King, okay? Well, reading one book, we can see that she's sitting there. She is focused on her book. So again, Barbara got in the habit of reading one book a week after she read the biography of Martin Luther King. All right, so get in the habit of. You can avoid making the mistake of not making a schedule by getting in the habit of, or to start doing regularly, planning out your English study time. It can be days, times, or even by topic, but plan out your study time, okay? All right, mistake number 5. This involves basically studying only one aspect of English for a long period of time. That is why the mistake is called studying only one aspect. For example, only studying grammar and neglecting, don't worry, I'll explain this word, listening, speaking, writing, and vocabulary. By studying only one for a long period of time, you inevitably or unavoidably become weaker in all of the other aspects. So let's look at neglecting. This means a fail to care for properly or to not pay proper attention to or disregard. So the first example, my friends told me to stop neglecting my boyfriend. So on the sketch on the right side, you'll see it's kind of like the guy is trying to hug her, but the woman is actually ignoring him or neglecting him, okay? Number 2, the boss neglected his employees and they got upset. Well, in this sketch, you will see there's a man in front, but he looks a little bit worried because of the people behind him. He neglected them, didn't pay attention to them for a long period of time. And number 3, both parents were found guilty of neglect and their child was taken away from them. So again, we see in the picture the baby is screaming and crying because the parents did not take care or give proper attention to the baby, okay? So we say neglecting. Now, this is what happens. If you only focus on one aspect, let's say you focus only on vocabulary. Your vocabulary is strong, but everything else is weak. Or you focus on grammar and everything else, vocabulary, listening, writing, and speaking, get weaker. The same is true no matter what aspect you focus on. If you put too much focus on it, it'll make the other aspects get very weak, all right? So, mistake number 5 is studying only one aspect. This will cause you to neglect the other aspects. Remember to balance your study time, all right? So, you can avoid making this mistake by allotting time for each aspect. And again, allotting time for, I'll explain. In other words, you can create a schedule that includes all aspects of English. By doing this, your English ability will improve in a balanced way. All right, allot time for, okay? This means to divide, distribute, or set aside an amount of time for a specific purpose or task. So look at the bottom. You see, for example, time to send messages, or time to talk to friends, time to plan, or time to work, or time to read. We always allot or set aside a specific amount of time for certain parts of our day or our life, okay? So, for example, did they allot time for the project this month? Well, looking at this picture, project, well, we'll see that what's happening. He is looking at some diagrams, so he's working on a project. So again, did they allot time for the project this month? Next picture. My boss told me that he allotted 3 hours for the interviews on his schedule this afternoon. So looking at this picture, interviews, well, he is dressed professionally and the two of them are talking, so it's possibly an interview. So once again, my boss told me that he allotted 3 hours for the interviews on his schedule this afternoon. And then we have this one. Michael allotted a specific amount of time for studying today because he has a big exam next week. Well, we see studying right here, and we're looking and we see this man sitting at the table, right? And then we also see a big exam being the focus. So the man, he is focused. And then we also see that he has a lot of books. So he's studying for a big exam. So once again, Michael allotted a specific amount of time for studying today because he has a big exam next week. All right. So you can avoid making the mistake of studying only one aspect by allotting a specific amount of time or setting aside time for each aspect. Okay. All right. Now, if you want to keep studying with me and you haven't joined the Speak English with Tiffani Academy yet, you need to join now.